Really appreciate you coming on the podcast on the weight room. It's really cool to get you on here. I've talked to I think around like 20, 22, 23 Olympians since like October, and it's just been really cool to kind of dive into their personal experience a little bit, talk about some things that some people may not share on social media, and just try to like humanize the top athletes, right? Because there's so many people who look up to you guys, who are just doing their first show, second show, third show, and I think the more that we can like I said, humanize those people, we can kind of tie that to like a personal experience. This is like these are the things that I went through during this stage. This is how I even still go through some things in this stage. So just getting to talk to people like you has been really eye-opening for myself.
I'll definitely give the fans a little bit of insight just to address what you just said. I think it's really important that, that we're up and personal, and that both the fans and upcoming athletes, that they kind of see that, we're real people. We're just not just some star that's always standing on stage, shining and everything. There's so much behind that. So yeah, to start from an end, I'm from Denmark originally. I lived in LA for 10 years. Right now, I'm traveling around a bit. I'm basically all over the place. It started last year I went to Mexico on a vacation in January last year. And then I tore two tendons in my shoulder. Decided I needed to stay there because I needed emergency surgery. So it happened a couple of days later. I stayed 6 months for rehab. Then I decided I wanted to see if I could get back for the Olympia. I mean, it was major surgery. It took a long time for really rehabbing the shoulder. But I was like, you know what? All the chances you don't take, you miss out on. So I went to Dubai to prep for there's like an amazing gym there called Beano's Gym. A lot of athletes are training out of there. Andrew Jack, yeah, from all categories you'll find athletes there. And I felt like, okay, I got the opportunity to go there, so let me give it a shot. So I spent 6 months in Dubai, and competed at the Olympia very successfully. I was third place. And considering the circumstances I had, I was like super grateful, very blessed that I could make it back in the top three. To go a little bit further back, that was like the recent past, but I started working out when I was 15 years old and got like seriously into it with 17. Did my first competition, the Danish Nationals, at 22. That was like the milestone. I think, winning the nationals at first shot, it was like, I mean, I was just trying it out, like, let me see, like, I started working out just like everybody else, want to stay in shape, look good, you're a teenager, you want to like just look hot. It just bit me, that sport. I just really loved how I could do everything on my own time. I wasn't depending on a team or certain hours that you had to play. Like, many times if you're a team, you have to be there every Tuesday and Thursday at 7. I was like, it gave me the freedom to put the training around my other things. I was at school at that time. And I like the changes to my body. I like to see things being sculpted, things just looking different, muscles popping up. And so I wanted to do my first show just to have a challenge, try something new. And it was of course a major victory because I had no idea if I even had the talent. So I qualified for the Scandinavian Championships. That's Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. 5 weeks later, and I won that show as well. So one thing that I still remember that's like carved into my brain is like the head judge came up to me backstage and said, young lady, if you want to pursue this, like, you can go very, very far. So I was like, maybe there's something here I'm good at. So I decided to pursue it. So that was at 22. At 27, I turned pro. did my first pro show in North Carolina, the Jantana Pro Classic, and I won the show and won the overall. At that time, there was weight classes: lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight. So I won as a heavyweight and qualified for the Olympia and was fifth. This was in 2003. And then I injured myself. I had a really bad back injury, got totally out of it. It took a very, very long time to rehab and get back, just compression, all that. And I sort of just, I guess I gave up on it for a minute, because, when you suddenly see your body go like way back and you feel like, damn, can I make it all the way there back where I was? And you're looking at the other athletes, and I'm telling this because so many athletes, they experience to get injured, and it's like, it's not just one, it's everybody. Yeah, at some point in your career you will sustain an injury, and I just want to give people like hope and courage and faith that even though you have a severe injury, it can be overcome. It might take some time. I was out for 8 years. I could have come back sooner, but then I started coaching other athletes for competition, weight loss, started my own business. And at some point, my athletes were starting to say, "Hey, Helle, you should get back on stage." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And then all of a sudden, there was a competition in Germany that popped up. And at that time, I was still living in Denmark, and Germany is a neighboring country. So it's only like a couple hours. So I was like, it would be cool. Like all my family, friends, they can attend, and it'll be a fun experience. So I didn't really put much pressure on myself. I was just like, oh, let me just do this for fun. So I went to the FIBO in 2011, did the show, won it, and was again qualified for Olympia. So I was like, okay, damn, I guess I'm back. So that was kind of like the shot to get started, So ever since 2011, I've been competing every single year. And I think that's why this year I was so stubborn that I was like, I felt like defeated if I couldn't compete. I felt like, man, I've been competing every year since 2011, and I just don't want to sit this one out. And as you know, Olympia for the women have been out for a number of years. I think the last Olympia, I believe, was 2015, 14 or 15, and then it started back up in 2020. So it's just recent. So I was like, I still want to have a shot at that. And I have to get back anyway, like I had to rehab and I had to train myself back up. I had been off training for 6 months. So I felt like, if I go for it, I'm gonna probably get back faster, because I'm gonna do everything right. I'm gonna eat right. I'm gonna be strict. I'm gonna do my rehab. I'm gonna do my treatments. So I made it. So that was a major success for me.
It's almost crazy because you were in the sport almost like two like different distinct time periods and almost like careers in a way. Like
I did the Olympia 2003 with Linda Murray on that stage, and the people competing then, I don't think anyone are left from that era still. Well, yeah. I am, but I was just getting my feet wet back then, and so yeah, it's I had like 2 rounds.
Kind of looking back to when you first started actually lifting, going back in time to when you were like 15, you said, was working out for women, especially for young women at that time? Was that different? Was that pretty normal then? Like, how was for you? What was that kind of experience like being a young woman working out?
I mean, a lot has happened. I mean, we are talking like, 30 years ago. I will say one thing is I've always been a rebel. And there were things that really provoked me. Bodybuilding and fitness was like nowhere near it is today. There also, at that time, there was only bodybuilding. There was no other categories. Like a little bit after I started, maybe like 2 years later, there was a Miss Fitness competition that popped up. But at that time, I was already too buff. I was never really like the slender ectomorphic type. I also have a sports background, so I was always pretty athletic. I ran track and field. I was the swimming champion in high school. I had my own horse for 10 years, did martial arts, everything. So I always loved sports. Yeah, there wasn't, I mean, today it's trendy, it's trendy to work out. It's trendy to have a great body. And, you know, muscle on women are just, it's starting to be mainstream, it's almost like if you don't work out, it's kind of like, oh, you don't work out. It's trendy.
It's funny you said
So,
you're a rebel, because that's like what I would, when I was younger, that's what I thought more of bodybuilding was like. Oh, it's kind of rebellious. It's kind of like this grunge thing, to where now, like you said, it's more trendy, it's more popular. People just kind of jump into it. And I think too, with like the increase in different divisions, like it's easier for people to just kind of jump into it. Talking to people who have been in the sport for longer periods of time, like you have, they kind of mentioned like back in, when they started, it was more like you trained and trained and trained, and then you got into bodybuilding. Whereas now it's like you get into bodybuilding and then you start training.
true. I mean, for a lot of people, I see it's kind of reversed, like you say, like it's like, oh, I want to do a show, and then they start training. Where back in the day, it was more like you train to be part of the community. The gyms weren't like major chain gyms. Like it was all like mom and pop gyms, and it was a lot of camaraderie. The gym I joined, it was like the first day I went there, and the reason why I joined that day was because there was a powerlifting competition, and there were seats, and they were full, and people were excited. There was chalk in the air. People were like enthusiastic and cheering on, and it was like super great vibes, great camaraderie. There was coffee, and there was cake, and there were protein bars, and people were just having a jolly good old time. And I was just like, wow, I want to be a part of that, So for me, it was also like, I guess, fitting in somewhere or being in a community or something. And we trained with each other. It was about the training. Like, I didn't even think about competing back then. I didn't even know what it was. It was just we trained with each other, and always making some kind of training date with this person or that person. And sometimes we'll be a big group, So I miss that a bit today. Like, I feel like um, people are not getting together as much in the gym with each other. It's become very individualized, like a little bit like me. But yeah, I mean, it was a different time. And with getting back to the rebellious, I also felt like I was kind of like a front runner for women, because there was certain things that provoked me, like after a couple of years I trained, and got kind of buff. I remember one guy, he walked up to me, and he was like kind of like patting me on the shoulder, giving me some advice, and say, Helle, you shouldn't get any bigger now, because it doesn't look nice for a woman. And I was like, what? you know I like it, like, who are you to tell me how my body is supposed to look like, and what's nice for a woman, if it's nice to have muscles or not muscles. I'm like, are all the muscle in the world, like, are they entitled to men? Like, does all the men own the muscle? Like, you know what I mean? I was just like, that's not cool. And when we we're talking the whole gender equality and all that, I was just kind of feeling like inferior, or feeling like my freedom was limited, because you can't go there. And it wasn't just one incident. Like, it was often that I was met with the attitude in the culture, not just men, but also women, that thought, like, if we were going to train together or something, oh, like, I don't want too big muscles, I don't want to look bulky and all that, because it just wasn't really viewed in society as attractive for a woman to have muscles. And I'm like, we are all born with muscles.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can have your opinions, everybody likes what they like. Some like skinny, some like fat, some like with muscles. But, you would never walk up to a skinny person and say, hey, you shouldn't get skinny like that because it doesn't look nice, or you shouldn't get any fatter because it doesn't look nice. It's like, it was allowed to kind of body shame women because they have muscles, where, I mean, it still happens today, but it's gotten a lot better from back in the day, where it was just really, you didn't see a lot of women with muscles.
No, yeah, I think it has gotten a lot better. And I think the community of people who now do it are much more supportive. Like if that were to happen on social media or happen in a gym or whatever, I think more people would be like, why does that matter to you? It's her body or it's his body, or it's, I think it's, as much as it is, I feel like what you were saying earlier is very true when it comes to like, there is that kind of me feeling to it sometimes. I do think there is a very supportive culture when it comes to fitness these days. But in regards to like what you were saying about you were provoked by those things, like, is that what kind of gave you that some motivation and some drive to be like, let me just, be that front runner. Let me be that person to say, no, look what we can do. Look what we can achieve if we just follow what we want to do.
No, like 100%, like 100%. I mean, I felt like there was a higher purpose in it, not just training and have a great body. That's great. But I think that was the higher purpose, to both show women that you can have muscles and still be sexy, you can still be feminine. It's not like, it's whole, like, how do you define male and female, and I don't think necessarily that you can define it on looks, in terms of like, if a man has long hair, does he want to be a woman? Now the man bun has been very up in time, and things, and I feel like people should look like how they want to look like. And we're all born with muscles, and I just don't see the concept of that women shouldn't have muscles. Like, we can train just as well, and we can develop muscle just as well. And there will always be a difference because we have different genders. And I think masculinity or femininity, I think it comes from within. It comes from you, from your soul, from your heart, from who you are. I don't think you can define it in such shallow terms of how you decide to look. There's men that choose to wear nail polish. I just saw the X Factor, if you know that program. It's a music program. And one of the hosts had nail polish on, and I'm like, hey, cool, good for him. He's defining himself without letting the society define what he can and cannot do. I definitely wanted to be that person that paved the way and be like, you know what, screw it. Look however you want. Muscles can be beautiful, and I'm going to show you that it can. And I'm going to show people that I can, and I'm not going to conform to whatever beliefs that are out there. I have my path and my beliefs, and that's what I'm going to do.
And I think from a male perspective too, there's a lot of that because I'll hear people say like, oh, I don't think that looks good. I don't think that, getting that big or getting that lean or whatever looks good. And to me, I'm like, it's almost irrelevant, like even what the look is. To me, it's more about like the work that was put in. That's like, I think was what the most admirable part is about it. Like the sacrifice, the discipline, the work that was put in, the time. To me, like if you can look at a body like that and see what can be achieved, then I think it's so much, like you can take that so much further than bodybuilding.
Yeah, too. I mean, it requires so much discipline and so much abstinence from a lot of things. It's like you got to restrict yourself from things that you maybe like or want to do for your own higher good. Like if you set a goal that I want to be at this competition, like if you go to a family dinner or whatever party or it is, you restrict yourself and say, I'm not going to have this beer. I'm not going to eat this food because I have, my own goal, and I'm going to restrict myself from what I like, what is like temporary pleasure for my own higher good. And I think actually it's something that's really healthy to do in today's society because, everything right now is like instant gratification. Social media, scrolling, being on your phone, TV, Netflix, food, and snacks, alcohol, everything is like instant gratification, entertainment. Today we are like constantly being bombarded with the world, with TV games, computers, everything is computerized and everything is a lot of impressions. And I think not just having this instant gratification all the time, it really develops your inner person in a different way. It's like self-development that you can say, yeah, no, I'm not going to give in for this instant gratification. I'm going to stick to my goals. I'm going to do some things. I mean, it's often, it's not just like, wow, everything is amazing and everything is great. When people see us on stage, they see the finished product, but behind that finished product, there's a lot of days where you were tired and you didn't feel like going to the gym and you wanted to do something else, or, you didn't feel like getting up at 6 a.m. and doing your cardio before work. But you did it anyway, you know like people talk so much about motivation and motivation and motivation. It's not about being motivated, because motivation is a fleeting feeling. Like, emotions come and go. You're not happy all the time, you're not sad all the time, you're not motivated all the time. It's something intangible. But being committed to something, that's a choice. And you can choose and say, I commit to this no matter what, no matter if I'm motivated, if it's a rainy day or not. I'm doing this even if I don't like to or I don't want to. That's not relevant.
It's actually interesting when you were saying committed. It made me think about like how, you, at least here in America, you have the divorce rate is so high, right? And I never even thought about it or connect the dots there, but like instant gratification and like having that, am I motivated to do it? Like, do I want to be in this thing? Do I want to be committed to this thing even when things aren't going well? Like, are you willing to stick it out? I never even put those two together.
No, totally. I mean, I just, I feel like people are getting less and less committed because there are more and more options, like just with the whole what you can do online now, like back in the day. I mean, let's get it straight. When I grew up, there was no computers really. Uh, so like if you were dating, it was because, I mean, I wasn't that old. It was like when I was a like small kid, then they started coming. But you'd have to know somebody, or your parents knew somebody, or some friends knew somebody. Now it's like it's just a swipe. on Tinder or Bumble or whatever they're called, you know? You just, no, 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 too big nose, ugly, big ears, don't like, wrong ethnicity. You know, it's like, it's sort of like a consumer society where it's like quick fixes and entertainment, and you know, you can always get another one, you know, like, and I think that has kind of really reflected on the whole commitment topic.
Very true. I like to say it's not necessarily the tools, it's how we use the tools. If we can implement that better, if we can show people, show kids especially, because they're the ones that, you know, are going to be the next generation of people. But if we can show them like, hey, here's Instagram, here's Google, here's YouTube, you could spend hours searching and watching and looking at, you know, mindless things, or you could like educate yourself, you could motivate and inspire others, you could, you know, have do so much good on these platforms if you know how to use them, and if you know kind of how they're being used against you in a way too. We can actually go far with them. It's just a matter of doing that well.
It's almost like there should be a class, right, in school for the kids, how to handle social media and how to handle all the things. Because something that I also think about, like, you know, I mean, when I grew up, there was no access to porn, really. But nowadays, you know, kids can just go on the computer and Google anything or find anything, you know, and it's kind of scary.
Very scary.
And it's good. I mean, I feel like it's really also brought the worlds together because
Certainly.
I mean, right now I'm in Denmark and I'm talking, you know, FaceTime on like WhatsApp or whatever apps for free, like, you know, on video with everybody, like my friends in the States. I have friends in Switzerland and in Germany. And, you know, so it really brings people closer to be online. And also in terms of like Facebook and Instagram and stuff, like, you know, I haven't been home for 4 years. And now I'm like connecting with my family and they're like, all like, you know, they know me. Even the kids that have been too little, that haven't really, they don't have a memory of me. They're like, they already know me because they've been following me on social media and what I've been doing and keeping themselves updated. And I think that's really a cool aspect of social media.
And another cool aspect, especially in the world of fitness and bodybuilding, is how you can utilize all this information and resources to help you achieve your goals. But going back for you, you know, before there was social media and Google and all those things, where did you find kind of that information to learn how to start training, learn how to start dieting well, and learning, you know, this is how we prep? Like, where did you get that?
Once a month at the kiosk, the magazines arrived. And it was Muscle and Fitness, Flex Magazine, Muscle Mag. So, you know, we were just like, you know, looking forward to, you know, it was like kids in a candy store. When is the candy arriving, you know? So a lot from the magazines, of course, copying all the workouts that was in there. The magazine was like really read from start to finish. And then it was just like knowing people. You know, I remember from my first show when I really realized, okay, I'm gonna do this. You know, I felt like there was nobody in my town. Like, I'm from a small town. I'm there right now, Söderborg, by the German border, and there was nobody who had competed there. Like, there was powerlifters, but no bodybuilders. So I felt like, you know, who's gonna help me? Who can I ask? It was before there was really, you know, online coaching and all that. So I moved to Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, with the sole purpose of competing and becoming good and starting a new chapter in my life and all that. And then the previous Danish nationals I had attended, and back then they would make like brochures with all the weight classes, who were in the weight classes, and their gym, where they came from. And I noticed there was one gym they always had like a lot of athletes. Like we're talking maybe like 10 athletes competing at every show. So I felt like, okay, I got to be at that gym. That's the place where it happens. So, I just looked for an apartment in the area, got the apartment, started at the gym, and just got to know people. And there was a Danish champion there, and I asked him for advice a lot and said, hey, can you maybe look at me from time to time? I actually did my own diet. And it was just by really looking in the magazine and asking people how it's done, how they would do, having somebody to look over my diet. Does it look right? So, I mean, it was like taking advice and just trial and error.
It's funny. I was talking to somebody and they said, like Google used to just be like the guy that at the gym that, the biggest guy at the gym was like Google back in the day.
Yeah, no, for real. It was like that. You knew who to go to, and you knew like everybody was like for us it was a guy called Antonio Montes. He had won the world championships. He was like, I don't know, 10-time Danish champion or something. And everybody was like, he helped people with diet. So everybody was like, talk to Antonio, talk to Antonio.
Yeah. And then, going into that first show that you did, was there any like expectation? Was there any really like any kind of like thing in your thinking in your head, kind of like this is what I want to achieve with this? Or was it more of like, let me just get this experience under my belt?
I mean, I've always been really competitive. I've been doing a lot of other sports, and I never like to lose. Like, let's be honest, I never like to lose. So I was going in with a purpose of winning. I mean, you don't know exactly where you stand when you never competed, but I was just like, I'm gonna do everything I can, and I had the goal of being the most shredded athlete there, which I was. I was coming to win for sure. It's funny, like, because also, I mean, I knew a couple of the others, and um, there's one girl, I remember talking to her after. Actually, that particular girl I didn't know, but we had a good camaraderie. But I talked to this girl a lot of like after the show, like maybe a couple months after, and she said, "Yeah, like I was just really, really good, and I was the best in my gym and in my area." And my coach said, unless there's some kind of freak coming out from the dark agent, the dark country, because I was like way out, like I'm from the farm, like where nobody knew, like have heard of her anywhere, then you're gonna win. And then she was like, okay. And then I saw you backstage, and I was like, okay, there comes the freak. We laughed a lot about that many times. I don't know. Denmark is a small country. It's super small. We're only 5 million people. So in this sport, everybody kind of knows who they are, and especially in women's bodybuilding, there weren't that many. So you kind of knew who was out there.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool when I look like versus today, you see everybody's like posting on social media what they look like, constant updates. And then I think like back in the day when people were just like training, and it was much more low key of like what you might know that there's this other competitor that, across the country or whatever, but you don't see them like all the time. So you don't have this thing to compare them to. And you don't have like, you don't know, like when they show up, you're seeing them for the first time a lot of times, which is kind of crazy in a way if you think about it compared to today.
I mean, honestly, I think it was less stressful. Now I'm a coach, and what I've had many athletes struggle with is like confidence, because they're watching their competition on social media, and they're like, oh, I'll never have those glutes, or her legs are gigantic, or whatever it is. And I keep telling them that, you know what, when you take a photo, remember like which photo you put online. It's like, first of all, a whole new era has started with editing of photos. I don't know if you know this page Group.
Yeah.
It's like oh my God, like it waists are getting in and quads are getting out. And it's like, I don't mind if it's a little like you edit the color or something, but if you start changing your proportions, it's just, it's a fake reality. But seen apart from that, even if there's no edit, athletes will take a picture in their best angle, in the best light of their best muscle group. I mean, I do that. Like if I have a photo I don't like, I'm not going to put it up online. I'm going to put the best ones up online
Yeah.
of my best features.
Yeah.
So you will see, this girl is always posting pictures of her quad. So this one is always posting pictures of her bicep. And, everybody has something great. Everybody has something they bring to the table, but you gotta focus on you. You can't let your confidence be taken down by what you see on social media. And that's what we didn't have, back in the day. It was like you only had the rumors.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think that would be such like a fun era to be a part of, really, because it is all kind of like rumors. Nowadays, everything's like verified via picture, video. I just think there's that mystique of human, just storytelling that now it's so transparent. But back in the day, it was like you could just, oh, they have, this freak athlete and they have these freak qualities, and it was just like that was the story until you saw that person. It's pretty interesting how kind of the human interaction has changed in so many ways.
And honestly, what I always enjoyed to kind of just be the dark horse, just come in like whoop. I did it at my first show where nobody knew me. Then again, when I went to the States for my first show, that was my first time in the States. Like, I didn't grow up in the US amateur ranks, so nobody knew who I was. So it was like, damn, where did she come from? And also this year, I didn't want to put any pressure on myself. So I actually went out really early on social media and said, I'm not competing in this year's Olympia, because it really wasn't clear that I could compete. Maybe before like 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks before the show. That's when it started to come together. Like I was so late because I didn't really start training hardcore before 1st of September. I had June, July, August kind of slowly getting into it. And then when I was really ready to push, we were around 1st of September, and that gave me September, October, November, like 3.5 months to the O. So I was like always behind. Like it was the hardest prep mentally that I've ever had, because I'm always ahead. Like I will be in shape like 4 to 6 weeks before the show. And now I was running the time, and I was behind and I was behind and I was behind. And it was stressful because I really did want to compete. But of course, I mean, I won the Rising Phoenix World Championships twice. I placed several times. I've been second at the O. So, I'm right there, like I have a name, a brand, people have expectations. I have expectations towards myself. I'm not going to compete looking any type of way. So that I was putting a lot of pressure on myself from myself. So I was trying to really take it off as much as possible and saying, hey, I'm not competing because it gave me a way out, like say if I realized coming close to the show, this is just not going to come together, then, nothing would be lost or whatever.
Right. And then you mentioned like
But
coming over.
surprised when I then was there because nobody knew I was competing. So that was kind of fun. Everybody was like, damn, like you were just scared, like you had surgery. What are you doing here? Like nobody thought you were competing. So that I really enjoyed that.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company
that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout. If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below. It's kind of like you're creating almost that rebellious situation for yourself, kind of going back to what you said before. It's like, I'm going to rebel against what I said before. I'm gonna train hard. I'm gonna push the limits of what I can do and see what I can do and do something that even I said I wasn't gonna do.
Yeah, I didn't even see it from that side, but you're totally right. You're seeing through me.
So when you came over to the States, though, the first time, and then even like traveling the world and competing, what did you notice about competing in the sport of bodybuilding from different parts of the world?
It's just on a much larger scale in the US. Denmark is a small country. I know still in the States we're talking about there's not enough promotion and there's not enough, going on around the shows with just promoting the whole machinery. And yes, it can get better, but coming from a small country, it's really like nobody would know that was a show. There's not the money to really do promotion. So it's like, if you're not exactly a member of the federation and you are on their website or their Facebook page, you wouldn't know what's going on. Where I feel like still there's more promotion going on in the States regarding the shows. Social media is powerful, and using it correctly, you can really spread to a lot of platforms. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, etc., etc. So the shows were just bigger, more money, bigger stage, more people, better setup. So I think that's like the major changes. I think in terms of like enthusiasm from the fans, it was the same. People are super enthusiastic about bodybuilding over here as well. And, those that love it, they really love it and support it.
It's so interesting how it's kind of like it really is like a cult following, like there's so much energy.
And they can get loud. I love both being on stage, but also being in the audience and people are yelling and shouting. Yay. I've experienced sometimes people had those horns, da 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 da. I love the vibe.
It's so unique. A bodybuilding show really is. It's like you can't go to like a football game or a basketball game, baseball, and like have the majority of people like in the crowd doing what the people on the stage or like on the field or on the court are doing. Because like I said, most people watching a bodybuilding show, they might not be doing at the same level, of course, but they kind of get it. They're doing almost same things day in and day out that these other people that are performing, that are on stage are doing. And it's just such a unique kind of experience for me.
Well, it's also, it's a unique sport. And, what I always really loved about it is like, it's two things for me. It's you have the work portion, the training, the cardio, the posing, the whole aspect of also your diet. That's work too, the meal prepping and all that. And then aside from that, you have the art. You're not performing on stage in terms of like you got to jump so high, or you got to do something on time, or it's not measurable like how many goals did you get? It's not measurable. It's more an art form. The body is your artwork. That's how I see my body. It's my personal sculpture. It's how I've sculpted my body, how I like it to look like. So it's like I feel like an artist at the same time that I feel like I'm an athlete. And I think that's a really cool aspect of the sport. And I think when people come to watch the shows, they appreciate both things. They appreciate the artwork, the beauty of what you built, but they also appreciate the hard work, the discipline. It's, even if you don't know much about the sport, you can see with your eyes, whoa, that took time. That took time and discipline and effort and willpower and sacrifice to get that lean, that shredded, that defined with that type of muscle. The biggest compliments I can get is like, if I walk down the street and somebody stops me and say, wow, that's a lot of hard work, like props for you.
And I think a lot of people, like you said, they can see it, and it's so like bodybuilding is like you said, you have those two different aspects of it. Well, when you're on stage, like it's literally all physical, right? Like it's all, you can see everything. And I think that, like you said, people can they can look around, they can look at everyone else, they can look at themselves, and they can see like what, even if they haven't done the work, like kind of in a way, like what it would take. All like they can't understand. I don't think they can understand what it can take, but they can see what it can take to, like, oh my gosh, to reach that level, to get that physique. I can only imagine what that like determination and dedication is. And I think, like I said before, that to me is the most important thing when it comes to like, it's just a physical representation of what you're willing to do in your life, I think. And I think that's the most interesting part about bodybuilding, is how it all starts in your mind and then it all ends up, physical.
Yeah. And like you said, it carries over. It's not just in the sport. I mean, once you master your mind and your thoughts and your emotions, you can do anything. You can apply it to anything. Yeah. Because you really got to be a master of yourself, because life happens to all of us. There's not the perfect prep. It doesn't exist. There's not like, oh, if just nothing happened and I just could just prep and I wouldn't have X, Y, and Z. It's not like that. It's like you deal with things as you go. And I think the biggest challenge is to be able to keep moving forward regardless of these other factors, divorce or money problems, or you get laid off from your job, or you have breakups, or you lose somebody, pass away in your family, or close ones, so many things. I mean, I think I've experienced it all of those examples during prep. Like in 2009, my mom passed away, like I think it was 6-7 weeks before my show. It was the Chicago Pro. And I mean, am still, I believe in spirits, very close to my mom, like super, super close. And, when I went to Denmark in the off season, I would come as soon as I was done with my season. I would come home like 3-4 months, stay with my mom. She would like cry for a week after I left. Like, that's how close we were. And, I lost my dad many years ago, so I just had her. So losing her was like super difficult. I mean, I was like packing my bags to actually go to, I think it was Omaha Pro, to work that show. I'm a Wings of Strength ambassador. And I was leaving at 6 in the morning, and I'm packing at 11 o'clock at night. And my sister calls me on a WhatsApp on the video feature, and she says, okay, it's now. We knew she was sick, and, it was a question of time. And she said, if you want to say goodbye, it's now. And I said goodbye to her on the camera and stuff. An hour later, she passed. And, you know, first I actually emailed Wings of Strength and say, hey, I'm coming, but, I'm probably not going to be super on. And then, 4 hours later, I realized, I was in shock. Like it wouldn't happen, and I was in prep, and, I threw the prep. I had 4 days in bed with DoorDash and, food delivery, and just trying to, you know, make sense of it or whatever. Like I was in some kind of state of shock. And then my sister calls me and she says, I say, yeah, I emailed my coach, I'm out and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, do you know what mom would have said if she knew you weren't going to do your shows? I was also getting into the Rising Phoenix and I won it in 17. So, I had something to defend as well. And I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how I can find the strength. And she said, I'll tell you what she would have said. She would have sat down and cried her eyes out because she's your greatest supporter and she's watching you. She's watching you. Trust me. And I was like, shit. Okay. Back on a horse. So the next day I was back on training, back on my diet, and was like, I got it turned around because a lot of times, it's not about what happens to us in life. It's about what attitude we choose to have towards it. And instead, I made it my mission to win, not for me, because I was heartbroken. I was grieving. I didn't want to be in the gym. I felt like I couldn't face people, and like I couldn't face people's compassion or feeling sorry for me, like, oh, so sorry about your mom, and all those things. I was just like, oh, I couldn't deal with it, but I went down, put my headphones on, like work mode, and just got my shit done and went home, prepped, and and actually 2019 has been my most successful year in my entire career. I won the Chicago Pro, and then I went on to win the Rising Phoenix. And that wasn't even all, as if it wasn't enough. I think a week after my mom passed, I was out jogging, and I fall really in a bad way, and my knee falls into the concrete, and I break a bone in my knee, and my knee is like this big, and I can't do any cardio. I can't even bike because the knee doesn't bend. So I start swimming. So that's when I started swimming for preps. And now today it's my favorite type of cardio. So I swam myself in shape because that's the only way I could do to not have pressure on the knee. So with all these obstacles, I still want to still excel because of my mindset. And this mindset you can apply to anything you want to do if you can find a way to find something positive. And it's really about transforming negative thoughts like doubts, fears, feeling like not enough, or feeling insecure. If you can transform that and install self-love in yourself and really operate out of working towards your own higher good and just being gentle with yourselves, not hitting yourself in the head with all the things you feel like you aren't good at, or you can't do, or you haven't done, or everything in the past. If you can just leave the past in the past. And I said, okay, mom passed away. I can't do nothing about it, but how could I turn something like that as a positive? You feel like you can't really, but I did it in terms of, I said, I'm doing this show for my mom. This is my respect to my mom, because she always believed in me. Like, even when I didn't believe in me, sometimes she would just be like, Helle, you're continuing. Like, you're going to win. Like, when I was doubting and everything, I said, how can you say I'm winning? Like, there's so many other good people. And she was like, because you're my daughter. Okay. All right, mom. So, I did it for her, and that's just one example of, like, not letting things get to you. Like, there's always a way. Like, you can use your knee. Okay, maybe you can swim. I also did some hand biking at night. You can always find a way. Like, there's not here in life, there's not one road. There's not one way. And that's where people get stuck, because they only see this one way. But if you're just choose to open your mind and look around, there are many ways to get to your destination.
I was actually talking to somebody recently, and they said the difference between someone who will succeed and not succeed is the person who isn't going to succeed. If it's raining, they won't go to the gym. They'll find an excuse. And they were like, the person that will succeed, if their car breaks down in the rain, they'll just run to the gym in the rain. I think that's such like what you're saying. It's such like a big aspect of just being able to find a way, being adaptable. If you can't bike, swim. If you can't lift this, do one-legged. If you can't do that, do something. It's like there's so many easy ways out. If you want to look for one, they're there. It's not that hard to find an excuse. But at the same time, if you really think about it, it's really not that hard either to find another way to do something.
Yeah, and then it's about believing in it also, like being able to have a positive mindset and being able to turn things around is like a huge asset. Because when I remember when I started swimming, some people were like, yeah, but I don't really think you can get hard on swimming. I don't know, like, nobody else is doing it and stuff like that. And I was like, I had my Apple Watch and I could see how many calories I was burning on that shit. And I was like, you know what if I get better from swimming? People, they have the tendency to think, what if it's not as good as the treadmill? Or what if it's not as good as this? If I have to take a different road, then I don't know that road, and the fears come into play. Where I would say my success has come from, I'm always able to see something positive. Like, if you say, oh, running in the rain, then I'm like, okay, maybe running in the rain will give me an advantage. Like, maybe it's a little hotter. I'll burn some more calories. Maybe it'll be good for my skin or whatever the heck, I will find something I believe in that, will excel me. And even if I don't believe in something specific, I can say, hey, what the heck, let me just do it. I mean, it doesn't cost me anything to try.
I mean, that's, I think, the most powerful mindset you can have is just flipping what may seem at first like a negative and trying to find the positive of it, and being the first one to do it, especially like, hey, is this going to be something that makes the difference between winning and losing? Is this going to be something that boosts me up that extra 1%? Just that right there is the epitome to me of why bodybuilding is so special, because I feel like a lot of people within the sport they have that mindset so prevalently, and they're like, you know what, this just happened.
I mean, I've met so many bodybuilders who are incredibly resilient and who have so much mental strength. And I think it's an amazing sport, and I can only recommend it for everybody, whether they want to do it for competition or not. That doesn't really matter. But if they can instill that kind of discipline in them, and get that joy out of being able to harvest, like, even just talking about in terms of stress management, if you have a busy job, you have a lot of stress on your job, just going to the gym, putting on your headphones, being in your own space, and you can just like you know, just work out, clear your head. You don't think about stress or work or kids or bills or whatever, or you can work out with somebody and you can chit chat and have some good sets and support and spot each other. It's just a great way of stress relieving as well.
A lot of people I've talked to, it they say kind of a similar thing about anxiety. It's like if they're feeling like really anxious about any given situation, having more control over their life, like knowing that I'm going to be working out at this time, I know I'm going to be eating this food, I know I'm like all these things that they control within their life actually helps them manage their anxiety too. It's like, the more that we can control, the less we have really to worry about.
Yeah, for sure. I agree about that. I mean, there are so many things in our lives that we can't control. The only thing we really can control is ourselves. Like what your attitude is, what you're going to do today, how you're going to use your time. And, that's it.
It's really such a empowering sport, and I'm really looking forward to this upcoming season and just seeing kind of how it plays out in the world of bodybuilding. I think it's going to be really exciting, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was great getting to chat with you today.
It was super fun. We share a lot of the same viewpoints, so thanks a lot for inviting me.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.